Jermaine Bass, my client, did not shoot his children. What happened on August 29, 2022 was tragic. He says that he does not remember what happened on that night. And that's where we're left. You're not going to hear from JJ. At the end of the case, after listening to all the evidence and the law, you will agree and find Jermaine Bass not guilty.
Hey, how you doing? It's a first. I heard some gunshots in my neighborhood. Okay. I heard a couple, but maybe downstairs said something bad is happening. I don't know. I just heard gunshots. I did. Stop talking your break. Stop talking your break. Yes, I understand that. I can't stand it. All right, I'm getting on you on the phone.
Not yet. Gotcha.
Okay. What's one upstairs?
Hey, what's upstairs? There's worse upstairs.
Okay. Adult?
No, juvenile, female.
Oh, Tuesday was a key day in getting to understand the story of what happened the night of the shooting. How does it go from the kids being tucked in, things are peaceful, they go to bed, good night, to this shooting, which the defendant said initially was accidental. Now, at trial, his defense team is saying someone else in the house did the shooting.
Showed up was Jermaine Bass with her?
No.
How was Shirley's behavior that night at the dinner?
It was fine.
Did anything seem out of the ordinary with her?
No.
Was she communicative and talkative and just hanging out with everybody the same way she always did?
Yes, I saw her smile.
Okay. Okay. How is JJ doing today?
He has some struggles, but he's recovered very well considering.
Okay. Is the bullet that was shot into him, is it still inside his head?
Yes.
They were not able to take it out?
No.
As a result of that, has that limited Jermaine's ability to do things in his day-to-day life?
Yes.
How so?
He has trouble with processing, and he has receptive and expressive language disorder. The left side of his face is paralyzed. His left ear was closed permanently.
Other than all that,
Approaches your car or Shirley's car that you're driving.
Yes.
Okay. And you're saying that he comes to the driver's side and he asks Shirley if she had been drinking and kind of why isn't she driving her own car, right?
Yes, exactly.
Do you ever see any kind of weapon?
No.
Does Shirley answer him?
I don't remember.
Okay, you described it as Shirley just kind of brushes it off.
Yeah.
And look, to be clear, Mr. Bass has already gotten a victory in so much as he's not facing the death penalty. In the defense world, that's a huge win. Death is off the table. So to some degree, he's playing with house money. Now, if I'm defending him, I'm trying to get to a lesser charge of like manslaughter, some kind of heat of passion. The problem is he's boxed himself in by not remembering what happened. And so that narrative of what happened is now kind of boxed in with, I don't remember, I blacked out. And that's going to be a problem for the defense.
Shows a downward trajectory, and the photo that we're showing here explained was also showing a downward trajectory of the pole.
Questioning.
You can answer.
Yes, it would be consistent with the round still descending or being in a downward trajectory as it is traveling towards what we can pretty easily identify as its terminal point where it's embedded in the wall.
And then what's significant about this damage, specifically when you zoom in?
We believe, again, this is just a zoomed in or a closer up photograph of one of the preceding photographs of the same damage at damage B. We're seeing some blood in that same area as well as some breaking of the wood on that framework. And towards the right, I would say the right edge of that damage, there's a little bit of rounded shape to that damage that we thought might be consistent with a bullet or a projectile striking that area.
Another view of the damage that you're talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
After peeling back to see the springs in 22E, tell the jury what you noticed.
A projectile was located within this space where the springs were.
This is significant. Number one, what are we looking at?
We're looking at a zoomed-in picture, kind of a continuation of the previous picture of the spring arrangement.
And I want to draw your and the jury's attention to, it looks like an item that I'm placing my finger to. It's kind of a semicircle portion of an item. What is that item?
That would be a projectile, ma'am.
We end right where we began. It was an accidental discharge. I was trying to take the magazine out and it went off. They was both in bed. I was in their room. Those were the statements of the defendant, Jermaine Bass Jr. Mere minutes after he murdered his daughter while she was laying in the top bunk of her bed. Those were his statements as he was holding his son, who was profusely bleeding from a gunshot wound to the side of his head. I was loading the magazine. I was in their room. Those statements you heard on the body-worn camera of Adam Lawman, HDSO deputy who first responded. I want to draw your attention on that same body-worn camera to the timestamp of 22:46:20. Right after he made these statements, the defendant was asked, what happened upstairs? He looked straight at the deputies and he said, nothing happened upstairs. That man uttered those words, nothing happened upstairs, when he knew that his daughter was on that top bunk with a gunshot wound to the middle of her forehead, and she was. We end right where we began. Right where we began. Where defense counsel in their opening statement to you said, my client did not shoot Jayla Bass or JJ. We know that's not true. We know he did it. We know that forensic evidence points to him. And I want you to recall when our blood spatter expert was on the stand. She said to you, the scene will guide you to collect the evidence that is relevant so that you can piece together what happened. And members of the jury, that's exactly what happened throughout the duration of this trial. The testimony and evidence are pieces that, when laid together, form an arrow that point to the guilt of only one person in this case. The defendant murdered his 5-year-old daughter as she was sleeping, and he tried to murder his 8-year-old son, JJ. Loading the magazine with bullets, putting the magazine inside of the firearm, sliding the top back to make it ready. And then she further explained, not only do you have to point it and aim it, each time you pull the trigger, you have to pull it hard enough to first compress the trigger pull, safety, and then the trigger itself. And she explained to you that because it is not an automatic firearm, that each time you pull the trigger, you have to pull it and let it go, and pull it and let it go, and pull it and let it go, and pull it and let it go and pull it and let it go. And members of the jury, that evidence is the scene itself, the evidence revealing to you what premeditation is. We don't know what order they were shot, but consider the proximity when deciding how deliberate these shots are. Consider the proximity when deciding how precise they are. That is the evidence revealing to you premeditation, intent and deliberate shots. Shots that are aimed at the most crucial part of a human being's body. Recall, the scene will reveal to you the evidence necessary for you to come to a conclusion as to what happened. We know from the defendant's wallet that was seized, states 15. Recall that the end is the DNA on the firearm. Now, recall this series of events. The children are shot. They're on the top bunk. When law enforcement arrives, the defendant is holding his son, who's profusely bleeding from a gunshot wound to the head. When he's asked, "Where's the firearm?" he explains to the deputies that it's on top of the dresser, and later explains that it's in the drawer in the master bedroom of the dresser. So let's keep pulling the thread, because what does that mean? It means that after he murdered his daughter Jayla, and after he shot his son in the temple, that he left them there, walked all the way past 2 bathrooms into the master bedroom, and he opened up that silver drawer. He put the gun and the magazine inside, and he closed that dresser drawer before doing anything else.
I was going to start talking about everything Mr. Terry talked about in opening statement and what he did or didn't show. But I want to first go ahead and respond to Ms. Reeder, if I can. First of all, she said, these are things we know. These are things we know are true. She said that Mr. Bass left the children home alone in their beds. So they're in their beds when he leaves. There's no evidence of that. You didn't hear any evidence that they were in their beds when he left. Is this or in any case? There is absolutely no evidence that the state has presented where that gun was prior to the shooting, who loaded it, was the net. We know nothing. And they have to have evidence. And going through how he then afterwards goes into the master bedroom, does everything, puts the gun up, and closes the drawer, she said. Right? Evidence. That drawer's open. So that's not true. She was frantic on the 911 call, of course. She's frantic. She's upset. But you better look at her overall behavior in this case. You can look at all of that, and you should look at all of that. The 911 operator is constantly asking her, who did this? Who did this? Is the shooter still there? This is a mother. Supposedly, Mr. Bass has just shot and killed her daughter and shot her son. She refuses to answer that question. Never answers that question. At one point, Ms. Bradley talked about this in her opening. She specifically presented that. And we certainly know, continuing in that second call, Shirley is still not happy with that operator. Take that in consideration as well as the first deputies at the scene. They're all equipped with body cam. Rahman, Rainey, White, and Jones. The big picture is what you can look at. Deputy Jones, I asked her repeatedly, who shot her son? He's asking a mother whose son has been shot in the head. Who shot your son? Is the person with the gun in the area? Please. Never. His testimony, evidence. Shirley never answered him, never answered his questions. Mr. Terry, in his opening, Mr. Bass said it was an accident. This was no accident. Did y'all notice that when Mr. Bass is first asked by the deputies how this happened, what does he say? He says accidental discharge. That's what he says to them first. He doesn't say, I did it, I shot it. He says accidental discharge. It's a period of time. Deputy Rainey steps outside. He notifies that they have found Jayla and that the house is clear. Comes back in the house. They're frantically taking care of the children. Fire rescue is coming in. Later, when Deputy Rainey is asking more specific questions, then, and only then, does Mr. Bass says, it was me, I was cleaning the gun. Common sense dictates no one's going to be cleaning a gun in a kid's room. What is going on in that house? What happened in that house that tragic evening? We don't know. You didn't see any cleaning supplies out, did you? I submit to you, he was not in the kids' room cleaning the gun. He was protecting someone else.
We only have to follow it.
Discharge. He was trying to take out the magazine and it discharged. Do you believe that version or not? Remember, the defendant did not testify and they didn't put on.
Right, the verdict form is in order. If you would publish the verdict and poll the jury, please.
Yes, ma'am. State of Florida versus Jermaine Lavonda Bass. Case number 22, CF 011717A, Trial Division 3, verdict form. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1, murder in the first degree. The defendant is guilty of murder in the first degree, Jayla Bass, as charged. And during the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally carry, display, use, threaten, or attempt to use any weapon or firearm? Yes. Did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. Did the defendant discharge the firearm? Yes. Did the discharge cause death of the victim? Yes. 12 of the 12 of us find the killing was premeditated murder. 12 of the 12 of us find the killing was premeditated murder and felony murder. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 2, aggravated child abuse. The defendant is guilty of aggravated child abuse as charged. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 3, aggravated child abuse. Jermaine J.J. Bass. The defendant is guilty of aggravated child abuse as charged. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 4, attempted murder in the first degree. Jermaine J.J. Bass. The defendant is guilty of attempted murder in the first degree. Jermaine J.J. Bass as charged. And during the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally carry, display, use, threaten, or attempt to use any weapon or firearm? Yes. Did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. Did the defendant discharge the firearm? Yes. Did the discharge cause great bodily harm to the victim? Yes. So say we all, dated this 27th day of February, 2025, juror number